Well, hello everyone. It is Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving to all my American friends that celebrate Thanksgiving. And even if you don't celebrate it, have a happy day. So I was not going to do a video today because I really don't have anything to share. Just a couple of things, one finished item and one unfinished item, but Sue and Heather talked me into it. So here I am. So on Sunday, I started working on my sweater. And I worked on it some Monday. And then Tuesday, I went down to Sue's so that I could finish my Charmander. And she was going to help me make the eyes for it. So, we've come to the conclusion that I never should have given away my die cutting machine and my dies. And now I'm going to have to get myself another one. But not an electric one, just a little hand crank because I probably won't use it very often. But I need some oval dies and some circle dies and the little, I don't even know what they're called, but you crank them and it squeezes it down and cuts your paper and felt or what have you. So I'm going to show you Charmander first. He, if you remember, he needed his tail finished and he needed eyes. So I took him down to Sue's yesterday. Oh, let me tell you, it was a horrible drive home. It took darn close to 2 hours to get home. I don't know the exact time that I left there, but I was joking around that it was going to be dark before I even made it to the interstate. But when I did make it to the interstate, it was like 7 miles an hour. And for no reason. No accidents, no broke down cars, nothing. Just for no reason, it's 7 miles an hour on the interstate where it's supposed to be 70 miles an hour. So it took quite a while to get home. It was a long drive. So we went down there and Charmander got his eyes. And it doesn't look like a kindergartner cut them out because she has that die cutting machine. Now the little eye sparkle or whatever you call it, we had to do by hand because there wasn't a die small enough to cut those, but we didn't do too horrible on that. But I think they turned out pretty good. And then today I did his tail because I still needed to do the tail, and because they talked me into it, I did his tail today. So I pulled open the pattern again just to see how they say, like, how much to use and all that. They didn't really say how much, but it goes all the way around the tail. So I did the top part yellow and the bottom part red, and I used less red than the yellow because the red can be, like, really overpowering. And then one of the things that they suggested, and I never would have thought of because I sat there and unravel by hand, is to take a pin and just run it through to unravel the yarn. Well, I used a toothpick because it was easier to hang on to than a pin. And boy, did it speed up the process on that. But when you actually get to the part of combing this out to get it to look all fluffy, it's amazing how soft acrylic yarn can feel. But what's even more amazing is how much yarn comes off of this. So this is my finished Charmander. In all his orange glory. So there's that. The rest of my time, I have been working on my sweater. And let me tell you something. When you're doing a garment, you need two things. you need to know how to count, and you need to know how to math. And it turns out I don't know how to do either. Oh my goodness. So you already know that I finished one sleeve, and then I started on the second sleeve, and I was almost done with it when I realized that my tension was way too tight and the sleeve was coming out a lot smaller than the first one. So I frogged it out and redid the sleeve. So Sunday night, I think it was Sunday night, I finished the first sleeve, and then it was time to do math to figure out the back section. And then you leave out a part for the neck, because the back goes up the back and around to the front. And this is where you're building the width of the sweater. So I get the first side done, set it aside. I do the second side, get that done. And then it's time to do the neck section. So whatever your total is, you divide it in half to figure out how much goes on each side. So I get it done on the first one. I go to do the second one, and it has you mark your center chain one space, as close to the center as you can. And I do it, and I don't know what made me double check, but I counted the spaces, and I had 24 and 24. So I'm even, right? Well, the first one had 23. So now I had to frog out the back section, the back front part, which was 4 rows, I think, and then frog out a complete round off the sleeve, and then redo the front back rows, and then I could do the next section and stitch it together. And then it's time to make the sleeves longer. So they tell you to measure from your underarm to your wrist, and mine is 18 inches. And I'm going, that's going to be really long. Well, I think I made the sleeve too big around this way, and that's why it seems like it's going to be really long. So, yeah. So I get the length added to the sleeves, and this time I got smart, since I don't know how to count rounds. I put a stitch marker on the last round before I started the increase, so that I could count and know where I was at. So I did that, and then I decided I wanted to have more of a tapered sleeve. So I still have to put the cuff on here, but I had to do an extra because I made the sleeve too big around to get it to shrink down even more than it was, because it was just huge. It was huge. So I get all that done. Now I need to still work in a whole bunch of ends, and I am currently in the process of working on the border. Let me find where I'm supposed to, where is it? There it is. And there it is. Okay, so here is the back and the front. Doesn't look like a whole lot yet. I mean, it's a lot. Trust me. This, because of the type of yarn I chose to use, this is a lot of work. And I was definitely having issues with math. So each time I got to a new section and had to start something new, I would go back to TL Yarn Crafts video and listen and see her explanation of what her typed up pattern says, because the typed up pattern didn't make any sense to me. I needed the visual aid. So that helped quite a bit, seeing the visual aid. So we did this. And then the last part that I have left is doing the border, the ribbing, the trim, whatever you want to call it. And Oh, I have crocheted some of my hair into it. Yeah. So I had to change from the way she was doing it, which is a shame because hers is really pretty. I just could not do the stitch with this yarn. This yarn is a combination 50% cotton and 50% bamboo. It is very thin. It says it's a 3-weight, but it's really thin. And it's not wound real tight, so I was struggling with my yarn splitting. And what she was having you do for the ribbing, and I was following DK weight instructions because they didn't have instructions for skinny as my yarn is, even though this says it is a DK, that it's a light 3. She would have you chain 13, and then you slip stitch back, and then your next row is a half double crochet slip stitch, which I have never heard of and I've never done. Doesn't seem like it'd be too hard though. Till you yarn over your hook, you slip through, you pull the string through, and now you're supposed to pull through the 2 loops on your hook without yarning over again to make it like a slip stitch. And that yarn over would get so tight that I couldn't pull I couldn't pull it through. And the yarn kept splitting, and it was driving me crazy. So I'd get like 4, 6 rows done, and I'd frog it out, and I'd start again, and I'd frog it out, and I'd start again. And finally, I just got frustrated and said, I'm just going to do the standard back loop only, single crochet for the ribbing. So this is where I'm at. I've only gotten this much done on the bottom of the sweater, and it has to go all the way around the bottom. Then you go up one side, around the neck, and down the other, and around the sleeves. And I started working on this last night after I got back from Sue's. I was working on the sweater, and at that point, all I needed to do was add length to the back. So I did 4 or 6, I don't remember now, rows to make the back, to make the torso of the sweater longer. And then I started the ribbing, and I probably had maybe this much done last night. And I had maybe this much done last night, and then I did the rest of this so far today, in between going to the grocery store and putting the tail on Charmander. It's going to take a long time. This will be the never-ending border. So, this yarn that I chose, I bought when it was on sale with the intention of making something else with it. But of course, by the time it got here, my mind had already moved on to something else, and whatever that project was no longer in mind. So I had 10 balls of this, and each one of these has 292 yards. I am on ball number 6. Don't use this skinny yarn for this sweater. It's a lot more work than what it needs to be because I use such a thin yarn. And then, of course, like I said, I think I made the sleeve a little big. I don't know. I'll know better when I get it finished. But if I ever make another one of these again, and I'm not saying that I will, and I'm not saying that I won't, but if I do ever make another one of these again, I will use regular sized yarn and regular sized hook, maybe bigger, and so that it's not as much work as this. This is a lot of work. I mean, it's beautiful. I love the colors in it. Using this variegated like this, though, kind of takes away from the whole granny square experience, however you want to call it. But I'm okay with that. I am okay with that. And I thought I'd have a whole lot less ends to work in doing it this way, but it turns out I'm going to have a lot of ends no matter what I do. Because, like I said, I'm on ball number 6, and then you are fastening off and moving to another section, and fastening off and moving to another. So that creates a lot of ends. But I may or may not get it finished before the next cold snap. I don't know. We've had absolutely gorgeous weather the last 4 days. It's warmed up quite a bit today. Actually, it got kind of warm yesterday as well, but Sue lives south of me. When I left here, it took me like an hour and 10 minutes to get down to her house. It had warmed up by like 15 degrees. There was a 15-degree difference between my house and her house in that hour and 10-minute time, plus she's further south. So I don't know. I hope I get an opportunity to use it. If it fits, we will see. But it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And I am just a week and a few days away from the next market. So I don't know. I might today, maybe I'll get to do some tomorrow. I'm not sure because, you know, I gotta cook. But I don't make a big mass production out of it where, you know, some people spend days preparing. I don't have enough people here for that. So they're getting a turkey. They're getting some stuffing. They're getting some mashed potatoes and some cranberry sauce and some broccoli casserole. And I forgot the black olives. I will never be forgiven. Oh, no. Now I'm going to have to go back to the store. If I don't have black olives for Jenna, she'll be mad at me. But that's about all they're getting. And then there's only one choice of pie, and it will be pumpkin. And that's it. And there'll still be a whole ton of leftovers that'll end up going in the trash. It always happens because you can only eat so much turkey. Anywho, I'm going to go back and work on this sweater some more and get this edited. And once again, everybody, happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you in the next video.